Hello, and thank you for taking an interest to watch this video. So this video is going to be a tutorial for complete absolute beginners in pure data. And I'm making it for my YouTube channel, Nickna210, and also for the Palacio Palace YouTube channel. Now, if you are a little bit experienced with pure data, this might be really boring for you. This is for the absolute complete beginner who doesn't know anything about pure data. So pure data is a open source and free software that you can use to create video animations or to create music, and you can incorporate lots of synthesis models that work in analog synthesis in a digital world. And it's great because you can test things out really quickly. I started getting into it because I wanted to make music on a Raspberry Pi, and here's a video of me creating music with pure data on a Raspberry Pi. And you can see my Raspberry Pi in a box sitting right there. Here's another video of me playing music with pure data on a Raspberry Pi. And here you can see the Raspberry Pi again in this little box that I made. I also use pure data on a Mac, and I use it in conjunction with processing to create sound and visuals. In this video, which you can find on my YouTube channel, you can see me creating an interactive audio-visual performance. So the first thing you need to do is to install pure data. I will provide you with a link in the comments of where you can get pure data, but it's free software and pretty easy to install. It runs on Windows, Mac, Linux, Android, a lot of different platforms. Okay, so after you install it, you need to open it, and the first thing you'll see is this console window. To make sure it's working, what you want to do is go up to Media and look at the audio settings. You want to make sure that the output is something that you'll be able to hear, either your interface or built-in output or something. You need to do this on any platform. And you want to save the setting, apply the setting, hit OK. Then you need to go back up to Media and test audio and MIDI. You want to make sure you can hear it so that it's working. So I go to this box right here and hit 60, and you should be able to hear a sine wave. If you can hear that, then you're good to go. So now let's get into the tutorial. So first thing you need to do is go up to File, hit New, and you get a new blank window. Okay. Pure data is a visual programming language, so we make things with objects and boxes. So we're going to go up to here and hit Put Object, and put this object right here. Now we can also hit, if you can see, this quick key, Command 1 on a Mac. I think it's different on different platforms, but that's very helpful for fast programming. So I'm just going to hit Object there, and then we're going to type OSC tilde, and here we have an object. So this is actually a sine wave generator. This tilde indicates that it's an audio object, and if you'll notice, it has these thicker things on the corner, upper corners, and one on the bottom. These are inlets on the top, and this is an outlet on the bottom. So that's very important to know. This is where you connect things. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is, this is an object. The next thing we're going to do is create a number box. So we'll go to Put Number. We could also hit Command 3. So number box. And we're going to go to here. Now, I didn't mention this, but right now we are in edit mode. You have to be in edit mode for everything we're doing. We can get out of edit mode by hitting Command E. We can switch back and forth. You know that you're in edit mode if you see this little hand. So in edit mode, we're going to click this and keep the mouse pressed and go down to here and release. And now I've connected these two things. Now, if we're in edit mode, we can't really do anything with this box. So I'm going to get out of edit mode. And now I can move this box. I can type things in, hit return, and we have that, or I can move my mouse up and down while I'm pressing the button. So that's a number box. Now we're going to create some more objects. We are going to create, we're going to get back into edit mode, put another object down here, and we're going to hit asterisk tilde 0. And we're going to connect these two things like this. And then we're going to put another number box in here like this, connect this like this, and we're going to put another object in here and connect this as follows. This is a DAC, stands for digital to audio converter. It has the tilde, which means it's an audio object, and that's how the audio comes out of your computer. This, because it has the tilde, is also an audio object, and this asterisk is a multiplication. So the signal that comes through, we can multiply it by a number to get more volume. So getting out of edit mode now, I'm going to put a 1 in here, and we hear that sound. That's the sound of this oscillator, this sine wave generator, playing at 449 hertz. We can change this number. If I put this at 1, so that's what that is. Now, that is a sine wave, which is a very smooth sound. Here's an image of a sine wave. You can see it's a curved waveform. So it sounds very not very abrasive. Now, if we look at this diagram of a lot of different waveforms, we can see square wave, triangle wave, sawtooth wave. Some of these ones with more angles are slightly more abrasive sounding. So let's say we wanted to have a square wave. In Pure Data, we can do that by getting the phasor object. Let's just hear what that sounds like. So you can hear it's a little bit more, it's a little like more abrasive sounding, a little bit more aggressive sound. Now let's go back to the sine wave for comparison. You can hear that's a lot softer. Okay, so let's continue learning the basics of Pure Data. So now we're going to look at the message box. Go back into edit mode. We're going to put a message here. 1000, 0, 100, or 1000. We're going to make a ramp generator. So these message boxes, now if you're out of edit mode, all you can do is like press on them. You can't really change them like you can with a number box. But you can press on them, and it will send that message. So now what we're going to do is create this ramp. We're going to have this message connected to a line object. and we're going to connect it to this sine wave generator. And get out of edit mode. See, we're not in edit mode anymore. So now we can interact with this. I'll put a 1 here. Now when I hit this message, it's going to send a message to this sine wave generator to start at 1,000 hertz, then go to 0 hertz in 1,000 milliseconds. And you can see that being reflected here. Now, by the way, this is really important. If you need help with any object, you can go to the object and press the alternate key and get the help, and you can get a file that tells you how this object works. So that's very important. Okay. Now, in pure data, we can also do, we need to manipulate numbers a lot. So we have to do some basic, we have to have ways of doing basic math. So let's say we have a number object. We can add it to, or we can connect it to a math object and then to another number object. Now this is an addition object. With the plus sign, you can put whatever number you want here. It basically will add whatever value this is to this. So right now we're adding 100 to it. And we can do this with several different math functions. We can do it with subtraction. We can do it with multiplication. And we can do it with division. Now this multiplication is the same thing that we did here, but this is just manipulating numbers and not audio. So this is pretty straightforward, and you need to know this to manipulate numbers. Okay, so now let's create something a little bit more interesting sounding. We are going to add some more oscillators to this. And we're going to take this ramp and we're going to manipulate some of the numbers a little bit. So we're going to multiply by 2. And we're going to multiply by 1/2 as well. I'm just kind of picking some, not totally arbitrary, but some, there's no real reason I'm doing this other than just to create a sound that you can, you know, hear and relate to. So when we add the sounds of different oscillators together, we get a thicker texture. Now if I deleted this, you can hear it sounds a little different. And if I deleted this one, so we're just adding different oscillators to make a different sound. This happens a lot in synthesis. I'm sure those of you who have modular synths know about this, or people who, you know, program keyboards. This is like a common technique. So this is how we can do this very quickly in pure data. Another thing that's really important in pure data is a toggle box. Okay, so this is a toggle box, and if you're out of edit mode, you can turn it on and off. I'm going to connect this toggle box to a metronome object. And we're going to connect that to a bang object. And then we're going to get out of edit mode. And what's happening here is this metronome is making a click or making a beat every 500 milliseconds, which is half of a second. Pure data metronomes operate in milliseconds. Okay, I'm going kind of fast, but I think you can stop it and pause it if you need some help with something. Okay, so let's look at another object now. Going back into edit mode. This is a float object. Float stores numbers. If you put a number into this inlet, it will hold this number in here, and it will just it will hold it, but it will also pass it out to the output. If you put a number into this inlet, it will just store the number until you bang it with an object like this or something else. So this is very useful for manipulating numbers too. It's called a float because it stores numbers that have floating point data. For example, 1.5 is floating point data. Anything with a decimal point. If you want it without a decimal point, you use an I object, which stands for integer. This is just like a 5 or a 4 or a 3 or something like that with no decimal point. The reason they do this is because it saves a little bit of energy or a little bit of memory. On a Mac, it's basically negligible. I think we probably have enough power to deal with floats for everything. And Pure Data does actually make everything a float. So if you want to use this, it's specifically because you want to discard this values after the decimal point or round up to a 1. Okay, so now we're going to make a simple counter. The way we would do this is connect this metronome to this float object. We're going to use a +1 object. This is going to come out of here, connect to that, and this is going to come out of here and connect to this. And then we'll connect that whole thing to a number box so we can see what's happening. Now we'll get out of edit mode. And we can see it's counting upwards. Now, make sure you don't connect this outlet of the +1 to this, because I don't think it'll work then. It's a common mistake. Let's see what happens. See, we're getting a stack overflow over here, so that's not good. This is our console, by the way. It gives us messages, so we're going to delete that and fix it. This goes to here. Okay. So now we made a counter that counts up by increments of 1. Now let's make a sequencer, a really basic sequencer. So we're going to add another object. This is called a modulo object, which counts up to the number you specify in the argument and then starts over. So in this case, we're going to count from, I believe, 1 to 8. This is a select object, and it sends out like a bang message when it gets the number that's specified in the argument. If it doesn't get that number, it'll pass it out this outlet. So if it gets a 1, it'll bang out of here. If it gets a 4, it'll bang out of here. And if it's not either of those, it'll bang out of here. So now what we're going to do is can actually make a box a little bigger. If we get a 1, we're going to hear this message. If we get something else, we're going to hear a different message. Oh, this is going to be crazy. 7,000 hertz to 0 hertz in 500 milliseconds. So let's see what happens. I'm going to increase the time on this. So if you connect a number box to this inlet on the Metro, you can make this go faster. I'm going to say, instead of every 500 milliseconds, say 200. Okay, so that's a very simple sequencer. So I think I will stop here. We covered a lot of things, and it's basically just to get you started and hopefully get an interest in pure data. If you would like to learn more things, actually in the installation of pure data, there's some really great tutorials. If you go to wherever you have your pure data application stored, mine's in applications, you can go into contents and then go into resources and then into docs. And here you have a bunch of examples that you can learn from. If you go into the audio examples, there's some really interesting stuff with vocoders and vibrato and all these things that you could actually learn a lot about synthesis. And there's a lot of other resources too, including the Pure Data forum, Pure Data Facebook group, etc., etc. So hopefully you gained something from this video. Thank you for watching, and if you want more of these types of videos, please mention it in the comments. Okay, thank you.